All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Forge Your Life podcast. Here today with your host, Richard Fu from richardfu.com. And today, guys, I have a most exciting guy on the show. You know, his name is Angus Nelson. He's an executive coach. He's an innovation consultant. He's an international speaker. And most of all, he's a part of this organization that he's created called the Brain Trust Partners. And what they do, they're a small agency that are helping, bring more agencies around the world, big corporates, right, Fortune 200 companies into the limelight of the digital world. And most of all, I'm excited to have him on the show because he's going to talk about some innovative ways of thinking. And most of all, something really exciting here, a way that I've never heard of this put before. It's about shifting away from what you're wielding and actually yielding to what's happening with your life so that you can actually achieve more in your life. But I'm not going to steal the limelight anymore, guys. I'm going to bring him on the show. So guys, please welcome Angus to the show. Angus, good to have you on, brother.
Oh, my pleasure, Richard. It's really awesome to be here and very much looking forward to our conversation. I love our time delay. It's morning to you. It's nighttime to me, but it's beautiful all the way around.
And with the lighting that you got going on, Angus, it does not look like nighttime over there, mate.
It's daytime bulbs, right?
Exactly, man, exactly. And so, Angus, for the people who don't know who you are or haven't heard of you before, can you just share a bit more about yourself and I guess how you got to where you're at right now?
Sure. So for me, I'm a product of a lot of perseverance and a lot of patience. I did not have the trajectory of a career path that my high school counselor sat back and said, you know what, Mr. Nelson, I think you should go to Bible college, then start a nonprofit, then crash your life through a divorce and some depression, and then you should probably start another nonprofit just in time for the collapse of the housing economy in the United States so that you can then close that nonprofit world, then write a book about that period you had that was dark, and then self-publish that because the publishers won't sign you because you're not famous. And then as a result, you'll learn all about social media, you'll get into daddy blogging, and then because of daddy blogging, you'll meet all sorts of interesting cats who are also in the corporate world who happen to be fathers. Those corporate partners will give you an opportunity to say, hey, you know what, kiddo? You should come and work with us. You're a good guy. Awesome. Let's go start a company. 3 years later, holy crap, I'm working with Fortune 1000 companies. And then I do that for 3 years and I get laid off in July only to spend another couple months saying, what in the world am I going to do? A couple friends call, say, hey, you know what? Let's start another company called Brain Trust Partners. You want to be a part? Are you kidding me? You are the head of social from General Motors. You're the former head of communications and PR from Ford Motor Companies. You're a CMO from a data analytics startup, and you're from Citibank. You know what, guys? I'm in. That has been the course of my life.
That sounds like a lot of yielding, good sir, a lot of yielding to circumstances and situations that I'm guessing you could not wield the control of. And so, Angus, I want to talk about this, man. I want to talk about how, earlier before we started on the show, you were talking about this concept of, letting go of what you're wielding so that you can just yield to what's happening. And
yeah.
How do you let go of that, man? How do you let go of that control that we all crave and we all seek, especially when we're running our own business, when, even sometimes even in relationships, people just want to wield control all the time. I mean, surely that's impacted you in your life. And then where did you actually realize that shift needed to happen?
So all of us on some level are control freaks. We just are. We want to control, like you said, relationships. We want to control our future. We want to control, our existence. And the truth is, nobody promises you tomorrow. Nobody. And we spend most of our lives trying to control our existence by something that we've conjured in our own mind. We have this expected outcome of what life is supposed to look like, what it's supposed to feel like. We have an idea of what kind of timing it should be, what I deserve to make in terms of finances, what I deserve to get in the size of my house or my partner. We conjure these things in our head and we say, this is reality. We have this chaos locked in our cranium that says, this is reality, right? People define the reality by one of two things, the past or the future. In the past is defined by something positive or negative. Either you had something tragic happen in your life and you use that as some kind of excuse why you could never be X, Y, or Z. And now you control, whether consciously or subconsciously, your existence in light of that detrimental thing that happened to you. Somebody treated you wrong. You treated somebody else wrong, or worse, you treated yourself wrong, and now you have guilt and shame and regret or what have you. Or there's something positive. I always think of, do you remember Napoleon Dynamite? You remember that movie?
Yep.
If you go back and watch it, there was Uncle Rico, and he would talk about, the good old days when he could throw that pigskin, he could throw a football, a quarter of a mile, and he was like, man, if I could get back to that. That's where a lot of people live. It's like something awesome happened and they say, well, man, if I could just get back to that, then I could be happy. Then I could be fulfilled. Then I could be, XYZ.
Yeah.
That's the past, right? Or people are in the future and say, in the future, when I get this, when I get that, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be fulfilled. Then I'll be, in a place of satisfaction. And the truth is, that thing will never come, because once you get this, then you get that. And then you got to get this, and then there's another that. And we get on this hamster wheel chasing after something that can never actually fulfill. And so in those two quotients, we're in a place of trying to control something that actually doesn't exist. It's all myth. It's judgment we've placed upon those experiences. Instead of living in the present, being present. When you're present, you can get to a place where you can look around you and be super grateful for the quality or caliber of people that are in your life. Or if those aren't there, you can make choices to change that, to create them. And from that, you start yielding to the process of being more interested in people than interesting. You start living from a place of abundance. You start living from a place of gratitude. You start living from a place of peace. And here's the best part. You live from a place of happy. And when you yield to just being you, nothing to prove, nothing to gain, nothing that anyone can take away from you, you get to a place where people want to be around you because you're just a good person that's happy and joyful and generous. And everyone likes to be around someone who's happy. That opens opportunities that otherwise would have never existed. And people want to give you opportunity, and they say, I'm going to come alongside you and I'm going to give you opportunity. I'm going to invest in you. I'm going to give you opportunity. And that is my life to a T in the last 10 years. After I made some really bad decisions and crashed a business, crashed my marriage, and went through depression and all sorts of junk, I started reading like a crazy man. I was reading books after books. I was attending events, and I was trying to get this mindset right. And see, even in that, I was trying to control it, right? It's like, I've jacked up my life. Now I'm going to do something. I'm going to strive. I'm going to earn. I'm going to fight. I'm going to hustle to get this thing to happen. And I will wield it, into being. And in that process, what I learned was it's kind of like golf. If you ever played golf, it's like the harder you try, the worse you do.
Yep. I know it so well, man.
And I think life is the same way, man. It's like once you learn to just yield and understand that your gifts, your talents, your skills are like the club that you play golf with. Let the club do the work. All you have to do is go through the actions. You take the movements and the steps and the opportunities that are presented to you. You walk through the doors that are open to you. That's your responsibility. That's your ownership. But the rest of it, you do not need to manipulate. You yield to it, and people will open up opportunities for you.
Man, I love the way you describe it, Angus, man. It's so different, right? And this is what I love most is, it's so true. It's like, and this sounds funny, right? This is the way I picture it, is that, in golf, if I go at my maximum, just like strain my muscles and just put all that power in, I hit that ball. It does not go as far as I just relax and let it be silky smooth. And that's when I say I'm at relaxed, I'm at like 80%.
Yeah.
Right. And this is the question I have for you, man, is that, how do we know? Like, how do you know that when we relaxed and we yield to it, and we just say we yield to it and we just play at that 80%, that we're not missing out, right? That we're not missing out if we don't put in this other 20% that we should have, because we know we're capable of putting in this additional 20% to max it out, right? But yeah, how do you know when is a good time to actually just play at that 80%? That's okay to play at that 80%, or when I actually have to step up and go all out?
Part of that, there's no distinctive answer that says, here's a season where you need to put in a little bit more effort or a little more work, right? There's a paradox in some of this, a bit of paradox to all things in life. It's as if, there's some old Hebrew text that says, if you want friends, you first have to be friendly. If you want to get, you first have to give. If you want to live, there's parts of you that first have to die. So there's elements of paradox that there are times or seasons where you have to maybe step it up from 80%, right? You're doing a startup, you've got that first year. Sometimes you're going to be working a little bit harder. You're going to be putting in some more hours. But I would strongly say in that same context, even though you're working hard, what you want to do is work smart. And that's oftentimes very cliche. But what that means is stop trying to depend just on you. Our control is we think, especially if we're multifaceted, if we've got lots of skill sets, we think we can do it better than anyone else. And we set ourselves up for exhaustion. We set ourselves up for burnout. We set ourselves up for frustration because we're thinking, I'm the only one that's working here. How come nobody else is doing this? How come I'm the only one that's instead of saying, you know what? You are your own worst enemy. Here's an opportunity for you to yield your, skill or gift that maybe you can do good and give it to somebody else that can do it great. And you focus on the things that you do great. There's that little balance of recognizing yourself, and this is where self-awareness and emotional intelligence are critical components to effective living. And those are known as soft skills. I've got an article in me. I'm going to write. I just haven't done it. It's in my head. It's bubbling and percolating. But it is the hard skills of soft skills. And I believe the future of work is based in the essence of soft skills. And that's a whole nother thing about my book I'm writing right now that we could jump into if you want to later. Nice,
man. Nice. And I love that you bring up this point here, especially for the people who are in business, especially the people who are probably not even in business, but in just general life. There are things that we try and do everywhere in our life. We try to take control and be like, look, no one else is going to do it as good as me. No one else is going to do it as fast as me. And maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. But even, as you're running a business, is that sometimes it's not worth your time to do that. Yeah, it's not worth your time. You could be, and this is why I love that Hebrew text that you're quoting here, is that something has to die for it to live, right? It's kind of like you have to let go of the good for there to be greatness in your life. So often, this is one of the new businesses that I'm running right now, is where we come in and we systemize for small businesses who just are so caught up in that multifaceted, I do everything, and hey, look how busy I am, and I'm busy and I'm awesome. But I hate myself. I hate my life because I got no anything else.
Yeah. Right.
And so how does someone realize that, look, it's time for me to step back and actually let go of the control? Because, for most control freaks, even myself, it's like it's hard to just let that go and be okay with someone else taking over for that time. I mean, like, what are some of your tips when we have to start yielding more than wielding the sword or the axe?
So rather than try and spell out how do you know, I like to emulate or model the people that I admire, right? So let's take a look at Sir Branson, right? Richard Branson runs multiple companies. He spent the last 20 some odd years bringing really smart cats to surround him. People that could run his businesses so that he could fly at 40,000 feet. Well, literally and figuratively for him, Mr. Adventure. And he was able to delegate and let go of so many parts of his businesses in order so that he could focus on more important principles. Elon Musk owns multiple companies. He's done a whole lot of delegation. And the list goes on. You can look at Steve Jobs. You can look at boom, 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 down the line. Like the people who have been ragingly, amazingly successful have done a lot of delegation. And for us to think that we are the sole provider for our companies and our employees, there's an essence that my wife and I experienced in our marriage. And that is this: self-care is family care. When you take care of you as a business leader, when you take care of you as a team leader, if you take care of you as the head of your household, or the head of your business, etc., like, you get exercise, you get sleep, you get food. Like, you have to get those things for you to be optimal.
Yep.
And so there's responsibilities that you have to delegate, number one, and then number two, to take care of you so that you can be most effective for those you're serving.
Yeah.
And those are things that, if you watch the people who have really done things well, that's what they do. So who are we to think? How is it that we've become so narcissistic, arrogant, cocky, and stupid? To think we just gotta keep hustle and wrestle and strive, and, like, you know what? I interviewed Gary Vaynerchuk a couple months ago, and he's been accused of being the full-on hustle guy, and he's definitely wired to just go. But at 5 o'clock on Fridays, nobody gets in contact with him. Nobody's going to hear from him till Monday morning.
Yep.
Like, people don't know that on the weekend, he's no touch. He's with his family. Furthermore, I pressed him on some questions. I said, what is it like for you in terms of your family? Like, you travel so much. How do you keep in contact with your kids? Do you FaceTime? Do you Skype? And he said he doesn't. He does nothing. And he paused and he said something along the lines of, my kids are getting older now. This is not sustainable. He said, my kids are getting interesting. They're going to want to be playing with these pieces of technology to communicate with dad. And so even he is understanding that, there are times and seasons where things have to change. And that's where I just watch these people and I'm going to just follow their lead.
Man, I love it. And I love that you bring up Gary Vaynerchuk, because so often that's all you see, right? All that content that comes out is hustle, I'm busy, I'm running, look, it's 10 p.m. and I'm still having business meetings. I mean, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? And I think there's that whole missing side of it is that, like you said, that Friday evening to like Monday morning, no one sees it. Everyone just assumes he just hustles all the time.
Yeah.
And we all know that, you can only hustle for so long, right, before you get out. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because so many people here on the show also look up to Gary Vaynerchuk, like myself.
Yeah.
I love that you bring up that self-care. Self-care is the most important thing. Like, literally, like Angus, man, like 2 days ago, I got struck down with like epic food poisoning. Yeah. Like me, right. All these other guys from Singapore who were having this event, and like even the speakers had food poisoning. Like, oh man, did not know what happened, but I see other guys are like, look, I'm still having meetings, I'm still doing this, I'm still doing that, but I'm sick. And I'm like, look guys, I just want to cancel all the podcast interviews I have for that day, and we're going to reschedule, and I just need to look after myself first.
Yeah.
And in those moments, so many times we could compare ourselves. I could have compared myself to one of my other business partners. Is like, wow, he's just going out there and still doing work and still closing sales or whatever. I'm in bed, right, doing my own thing, right, trying to recover, not spew all over the bed.
Yeah.
And so what do you say to those things, right? What do you say to those people, like, who feel like there's a point, like in my life, I was just there like, man, should I be working hard as well? Just like the other guy, should I be working that hard? Or, the way I've dealt with it is just, look, man, this is what I need. We all do things differently. But for the people who are like that, who are experiencing things like that, where they're just comparing themselves to other people, what do you think is the best medicine for them to yield to what's going on in their life?
Turn off Facebook. There are elements that we have to recognize, and this goes back to what I was saying before about self-awareness and emotional intelligence. We have to understand what pushes the wrong buttons. When you start comparing yourself to other people, you're only getting one part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the judgment you're placing on what you're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And your judgment can be completely inaccurate. On the outside, it can look like, man, that guy is crushing it.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow, he's amazing. I got a friend of mine right now, in corporate business world, like he is crushing, absolutely crushing it. He's also going through a divorce. And he only gets to see his kids once every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Right on, bro. Keep that up. That's not the life I want.
Crushing it and getting crushed at the same time, right?
That's, this is a guy that I just want to wrap my arms around and give him a hug and say, you know what, it's not worth it, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I work with corporate executives who have gone to some of the best schools in the land, who are working with the top companies that most people would just give their left arm to work for. They make great money. They've got, everything that they could want in terms of profession, and some of them are miserable.
Mm-hmm.
They are, hooked into the golden handcuffs because they overextended themselves with school debt and homes and cars and whatever. And so they can't get out of their job.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, they're dealing with a lot of the bureaucratic pressures that come with corporate life. That's stealing their soul. They're having to play the games. They're having to put on the facades. And dear God, should anyone know that they have self-doubt or, imposter syndrome or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And those are situations where people who know me, and as I get to speak with them, like I love to make people feel safe. And my story is one of self-destruction, of becoming a workaholic, getting addicted to pornography and then to alcohol. And then that leading into, me being in adulterous relationships in which I blew up my marriage. So I know what comes from trying to control those things. And those that know my story, it's an honor and a privilege, because then they feel safe enough to share with me the things they can't share with anyone else. And in those moments, I get the opportunity to let them know, number one, you're not alone. And number two is, this is not the end all. What you've experienced, this sum total, is not the dictation of your future. You can change this. And for me, somebody told me when I was in the midst of my darkest times, they said, in 5 years, you're going to look back at this with so much gratitude because of the man that you'll become. And I'm like, you're full of crap. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, 5 years is forever. Like, I was suicidal. I was terrible.
Mm.
Within 1 year, things had started to change. Within 2 years, I started to change. Within 3 years, I up and moved from my city, and my surroundings changed. And then I met a woman, and 2 years later, we got married. And now all of a sudden, I realized that marriage could be fun. And I'm different on the inside. I'm different the way I think. I'm different the way I act. I'm different the way I love. Because this is what I learned. What you hear about, you think about. What you think about, you talk about. What you talk about, you ultimately bring about. In order for you to change your reality, you have to change the way that you are perceiving the world around you. As I stated before, we are so contextualized by the judgments and chaos in our own head that we don't realize it's just like a computer. It's data-driven. And if you start to perceive things that are more mindful mode, in mindset and mindfulness, in positivity, in encouragement and motivation and inspiration, whether it be spiritual, whether it be, guru, if it be health conscious, whatever that context, you start putting in healthy content and you're putting healthy data into that computer, it's only a matter of time before the words that come out of your mouth start to have more positivity. And from that, the belief system that you're now acquiring. And what happens is our mind seeks equilibrium with our natural existence. And what happens is once that starts changing on the inside, you will start to attract better relationships, better opportunities, and better realities because of the internal change. What happens is we're striving externally to make change, and because the internal is still chaotic, we attract the pain that we feel we deserve because the chaos that's inside. So if I think I suck, then what happens is I go, date a partner who will treat me crappy, who will then validate the suckiness I feel about me. And that's why you end up dating the same person over and over and over again, just with a different face. Like, these are the things that we perpetuate, the chaos that we self-sabotage ourselves with over and over again. But again, if you then sit back and start reading different books, get into Tony Robbins, get into Brené Brown, get into Brendon Burchard, you get it, all these different things that start vacillating those judgments and start putting those in question and start shaking the foundation of the crap you have in your head, all of a sudden beams of light start shining and you can start seeing clarity in and amongst the chaos. And that's when things start to change. And it doesn't happen overnight, but this is that part of yielding to the process of dying to what I know and letting go of the things that I've been so convicted of. And here's the beauty. When you let go, when you open your hands to release something that you've been holding on, you now have open hands to grasp something new. You have to yield to the process of transformation, the process of a renewed mind, the process of a renewed reality, renewed relationship, renewed existence.
Oh, man, I gotta leave some space for that. Gotta leave some space for that, because that was amazing. And man, we're gonna start wrapping up the show because I would love to go in more deeper with you with this, man. We gotta start wrapping this up, and as we start wrapping up, Angus, I gotta move forward into one of my favorite questions here. It's what we call the time travel moment. And with what's happened in your life, Angus, I mean, if you could go back to any moment and speak to little Angus, right? And you could give him one piece of advice, when would you go back to, and what would you tell him, man?
Twofold. So I would first say I'd go back to my 18-year-old self and say, get a plan, be a little smarter about your trajectory. But that was unlikely to actually do anything. So that's why I say that would be my wishful thinking.
Yeah.
The second thing I would say would probably be to my 21 or 22-year-old self. And I would tell that person that what other people say about you is not who you know yourself to be. So be kind anyway. Be kind. Kindness has won me more opportunity than arrogance and cockiness ever did. I was pretty full of myself. I had a lot of doors open to me, a lot of adventure. I traveled a lot. I got opportunities to go to different countries. I got, picked for modeling for J. Crew. I got, all these different things that put me kind of on a pedestal in some form or fashion. And I let that get into my head. And I started to read my own press. I started to believe I was something really special. Today, I know I'm something special, but from a completely different perspective. Before, I thought I was special because I was better than. Now, I know I'm special because I'm less than. And let me define that. Not less than in terms of lack, not less than in terms of having a place where I'm the opposite of abundance, I'm in a poverty mindset or whatever, but less than in the fact that I've always got something to learn and I'd rather be more interested in others than interesting. I'd rather be the person that serves others and helps them get ahead because they will bring me along the ride as I serve them. And the ability to serve other people in a capacity that makes them feel equal and safe. Because then you actually make a difference. And if you're truly going to make a legacy in the lives around you, you have to do it from a place of togetherness, a place of collaboration, a place of us being on par with humanity. Our experiences may be different, Our paychecks may be different. Our jobs may be different. Our roles may be different. But never let your role, your income, any of that ever keep you from connecting with any person, no matter where they're at. You're always here to serve. Be less than them. And watch how your love and your liberty will set people free.
Love it, man.
And you can't do that if you're full of narcissism and ego, right?
Because you're the one talking all the time, right? You're taking up that space, creating that space for someone else to step into.
Yep. Being fully confident, fully present in who I am. Nothing to gain, nothing to lose, nothing to prove. People want to be around people like that.
Love it, man. Next question I have for you, Angus, is you've read a lot of books, man, and I want to ask you this one question, man. It's if there's one book that's a total must read, right? For everyone listening, everyone watching, what would that be?
I'm physically turning around and looking at my bookshelf. You know what? I'm going to throw you a curveball because I probably would have said maybe a business book some years ago. I probably would have thrown at you some kind of I don't know, Stephen Covey or something like that, or John Maxwell. But what I'm actually going to share with you is something that I believe in more wholeheartedly, and that is Daring Greatly by Brene Brown.
Oh, that's such a good book, eh?
Yeah?
Yeah.
So that gets you past all of your own bullshit. Is vulnerability and transparency, owning your stuff, and getting to that place of that quiet confidence. That's what I've been speaking about. That's self-awareness. That's emotional intelligence. When you know yourself, you know your propensities, you know your fears. And here's an interesting thing about fear. I'm just going to throw this in here as a freebie too, even though you asked me about a book. Sorry. Fear is an invitation to the very next liberation. Every fear causes you to level up to a new echelon of existence. Think about that. Anything you've ever been afraid of, once you leaned into it, and I mean lean not from the heels, but from the toes, and lean into it, always liberated you to something new, something better, something on a higher echelon. And here's the last thing I'm going to say on my own little context too. Today, that place of presence and that place of quiet confidence, today is an acronym. The only day actually yours. If you want to be the control freak, just concentrate on that little component. What can I do today? Because what I do today will change my life and create my legacy. That will be the momentum that I bring into tomorrow.
Angus, man, I just want to leave it on that, man, because it's just phenomenal, man. The amount of content, the amount of knowledge and wisdom you just brought on this show, man. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, man. I'm absolutely grateful that we've had this chat and that we've been able to bring this across. And so, Angus, man, for the people who want to learn more about yourself and your work, where's the best place they can follow you, man? Just simply go to angusnelson.com. That's the only place you need to go. You can also, I'll give you a free ebook. If you're listening and you wrestle with meeting people, one of the biggest components of our future is the power of your network, your collaboration, your connection with people. And so I built an ebook called Networking with Effectiveness and Credibility. I'm going to give it to you for free. You can go to angusnelson.com/forge your life, all one word. So that would be like forge your life, forge your life. And you can get that there. Also, my new book will be coming out next year. It's called Empowering Work, which addresses the whole aspect that fewer full-time jobs will be in existence as more companies will rely on contract labor, and we'll be responsible to manage our own brands, manage our own companies, manage our own reputation. And the book will then cover it from a perspective of what businesses and corporations need to look at. But more importantly than all of it, that's the business side. I like to think of it as a mullet. The mullet book, it's business up front and party in the back. The backside of the book is developing the emotional intelligence, the self-awareness in order to be successful in that world. Love it, man. We'll add them into the show notes as well. And man, as we wrap up here, Angus, I don't know if you have an answer for this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. From all that we've chatted about today, is there anything else that you wanted to add that we haven't had a chance to cover off in the show today?
Yeah, you know what? You are more than you think you are. You can do more than you think you can do. Go out and buy a pack of colored dry erase markers and keep them in your bathroom. And every time you get a quote, an affirmation, or a thought, write it on your bathroom mirror so it's the first thing you see in the morning and the last thing you see at night. Every one of us needs somebody outside of ourselves to read the label of our own jars. When you hear somebody say something about you, remember that and jot it down, because that is a reality that others perceive about you. In the marketing branding world, your brand is not what you say about you, it's what other people say about you. You need to get that in your head, that you are loved, that you are powerful, that you are capable, that you are amazing, and never forget that.
Amazing. Thank you. Once again, Mr. Angus Nelson, for jumping on the show, man.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, Richard.
Awesome, guys. So this wraps up another episode of the Forge Your Life podcast. Today, with the man himself, Angus Nelson, ripping it up, sharing up the truth here, guys, of what it means to stop wielding and start yielding. And I want you to do this. I want you to yield to what Angus is talking about here and make sure that we share his message out there. Make sure we get his message and all the other guests' messages out there. So head on over to iTunes to share this out and rate the show so that we can bring it out to the world. And most of all, remember to get on over to richardfood.com to get the resources and the show notes, that everything that Angus has shared here with us today. And remember to go out there, go live with love, go smash it. I'll see you again in the next one.